Good morning, everybody. As North Carolinians dig out from the devastation of Hurricane Florence, I have an important message. We'll be by your side every step of the way, and we'll work diligently to keep people from being left behind. You see, for days, I've been traveling to hard-hit communities, large and small. I heard from a senior in an apartment who had fewer than 15 minutes to leave as water rushed under her door. All she had left were a few personal items she grabbed as the first responder pulled her to safety. I talked to a couple and their newborn with nowhere to go as they cuddled their baby with donated diapers and a blanket. I heard dozens and dozens of stories from survivors, first responders, volunteers, and government response personnel. I'm going to be hearing even more today and in the days to come. After I leave these places, I take away emotions of desperation and despair, but they're mixed with gratitude and determination and hope. Now, while we continue our shift from emergency response to full-time recovery, I still want to urge North Carolinians in the hard-hit areas to be careful. Almost all of our rivers are forecast to return to their banks by early next week, but flooded waterways continue to cover roads and swamp communities in the southeastern part of our state. Florence has now claimed officially 37 lives in North Carolina. We mourn for these individuals and their families as they bury their loved ones this week. Motor vehicle drownings are the leading cause of death from Florence. We don't want to lose anyone else, so please never drive on flooded roads and do not drive around barricades. The torrential rains of Florence have created another health threat, breeding grounds for mosquitoes. To keep people safe from illnesses, I've directed state funding to counties to help them spray to keep mosquitoes away. This week, we're moving ahead with short-term recovery, help for storm survivors, including housing, food, and other critical assistance. Local, state, federal, and partners and volunteers are working together to ensure that people get the assistance that they need. We now have about 1,500 people who remain in our shelters, down from a peak of about 20,000 shortly after the storm. Temporary housing through the Transitional Sheltering Assistance Program is available in some counties with more than 560 people who have already gotten enrolled. If you need temporary housing or other help, please register with FEMA by calling 1-800-621-FEMA or visiting disasterassistance.gov. More than 94,000 survivors have registered with FEMA so far, and more than $44 million have already been approved to help people in need. Our North Carolina Emergency Management and FEMA have opened disaster recovery systems in hard-hit areas where people can go to one place to get different kinds of help to start rebuilding their lives. People living in the 27 disaster-declared counties will soon be able to get emergency food assistance. I urge anyone in a hard-hit area who needs help feeding their family to apply for this aid as soon as possible, in most cases at your local Department of Social Services. Other sources of help are also available. The U.S. Small Business Administration has opened business recovery centers in Craven, New Hanover, Pitt, and Robeson counties to help small business owners apply for disaster loans. Disaster unemployment assistance is available for workers or business owners who lost their jobs because of Hurricane Florence. To find out if you're eligible and apply for disaster unemployment benefits, call 1-866-795-8877. Hurricane Florence may have left many in North Carolina reeling, but I know we can recover, and we can rebuild stronger and smarter. I put together a set of goals and principles to guide us as we tackle long-term recovery. We must rebuild our communities with a robust statewide effort to build more resilient homes, churches, roads, community centers, and more. We need more affordable housing. We also need a state program to buy out or elevate homes not eligible for federal programs. And we need to help North Carolina homeowners and business owners pay for flood insurance to protect themselves against future catastrophic flooding. We must encourage resilient repairs and cover the matching costs counties incur for FEMA-sponsored repairs. We must support local volunteer organizations that do the hard and selfless work of repairing damaged homes. We also need a robust recovery and resiliency office with experts in all of the programs that help families rebuild their homes after a disaster. Our schools will need help with repairs and rebuilding as well. And schools will need flexibility with their calendars and other details as we go through the coming weeks. As we rebuild, we must protect our environment and promote clean water. We can do this by building more resilient water treatment systems, buying out hog farm lagoons from flood-prone areas, and deploying more environmental watchdogs to monitor and mandate compliance for polluters. Agriculture is our #1 economic driver in our state. Our farmers have suffered an estimated $1 billion+ in losses from Florence, and they will need our help as well. I'm continuing to work hard with our congressional delegation to push Washington to make good on their promise to help North Carolina recover. I'd like to thank the hard work of our entire congressional delegation. The United States House has passed a bill yesterday that includes significant disaster funding for North Carolina, and I believe the Senate will do the same. I've asked for flexible funding to help people get relief faster. This morning I met again with FEMA Administrator Brock Long to discuss coordinated efforts to help the people of our state to get back on their feet. In spite of all the pain that I've seen since this disaster struck, I have witnessed North Carolinians at their finest. I know that the people of North Carolina have the grit and the will to recover. Our state is determined, and together we will recover smarter and stronger than ever. I'm now going to recognize our Emergency Management Director, Mike Sprayberry, for a briefing. Mike?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. Mike Sprayberry, Emergency Management Director. We're now on day 18 of the Hurricane Florence operation. The State Emergency Operations Center is activated at a level 3 with our required federal, state, private sector, and volunteer partners. Although major flooding in eastern North Carolina has ended, we ask our residents and visitors to remain vigilant for damaged and flooded roadways. Do not go around barriers. The State Emergency Response Team continues to be engaged in sheltering operations for our displaced citizens, and we continue to operate 9 mass feeding kitchens providing hot meals by our outstanding partners from the American Red Cross, Baptist on Mission, and the Salvation Army. We also continue to demobilize unneeded response assets for reconstitution as we prepare for any future events. As we are transitioning from response to recovery, we are working closely with FEMA, SBA, volunteer, and other agencies to begin delivery of the full suite of recovery programs to our disaster survivors. Top priorities are housing solutions and the registration of our disaster survivors in order to link them up with the right disaster recovery program. We're also working with our partners to open up disaster recovery centers throughout the impacted counties. There are currently 11 disaster recovery centers open, with more on the way. Special thanks to all the volunteers out there. You are the backbone of a successful recovery. And thank you for your support of the North Carolina State Emergency Response Team. Thank you, Governor.
Now our Secretary of Transportation, Jim Trogdon.
Thank you, Governor. Jim Trogdon with the Department of Transportation. To update you on statewide mobility, it's improving every single day. We currently have 7 U.S. routes and 31 North Carolina primary roads for a total of 38 primary roads still closed across our state and a total of 270 roads. We're up to 2,818 damaged sites and currently have our preliminary estimates at around $100 million, and that's still growing each and every day. Closed due to damage only, not flooding, just damage. We have 25 out of 38 primary roads that are closed, and then 170 total out of the 270 are closed just due to damage. So our priorities as we transition to recovery is immediate repairs to open roads as soon as possible, those long-term repairs to repair those damaged sites, and then debris removal. And I included a slide in what the debris looks like just in Brunswick County to give you an example. The debris removal will be a top priority moving forward to get people back to normal life and to make sure we keep our roads open and safe. And then finally, and equally important, we're providing support to the county school systems that are closed that will be opening, their transportation departments, and making sure they have all the locations of the closed roads, making sure we can support them in their modeling of how they redo their bus routes. If you think about it, bus routes that work before Floyd will not work after Florence, will not work after Florence. So we want to make sure we help them so that the very first day back to school will be seamless and efficient. Thank you.
Our Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Mandy Cohen.
Good morning. First, wanted to talk about what the governor mentioned related to helping families purchase food. So starting tomorrow, people in 27 counties suffering losses from the storm can apply for help buying food through a program called DSNAP. A list of these counties is on the DHHS, or Department of Health and Human Services website. Eligible households will receive a one-time benefit on a special debit card called an EBT card to help them buy food. To be eligible, people must live in one of those 27 counties with a disaster declaration and must have suffered losses due to the hurricane, like property damage or food loss. There will be updates if more counties are added to this list. People must apply in person for these benefits, and it's only for 8 days. So it's very important that folks who are eligible starting tomorrow come to one of those sites to apply. You can dial 211 or visit the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services website to find out where you can apply. You can fill out those applications ahead of time, then go to one of these sites, and then you will be waiting to meet with one of the individual counselors, and then they can give you those benefits right away. This is, again, for people who are not already receiving help buying food through our Food and Nutrition Services program. If you already do receive support help buying food, we're going to make sure you also have additional help, but you don't need to apply for this new program, which is called DSNAP. So please look out for that starting tomorrow, and it's only for an 8-day window, so we need to have folks act now. For an individual, this could mean $192 for food assistance. For a family of 4, that would be $640, to help them purchase food. Second, as the governor mentioned, he announced yesterday there's going to be additional funding available to counties for mosquito prevention. We know the mosquitoes are emerging in large numbers. Most are in floodplains and salt marshes. in places where we do not believe that mosquitoes are transmitting diseases, but we want to make sure folks are using protection like DEET and others to reduce bites when working outside. DHHS is working with local partners to facilitate that spraying and other mitigation efforts. Third, yesterday I had the privilege of visiting Wilmington and meeting with folks, whether it's at the Hoggard High School shelter or the devoted county managers and DSS directors who have been leading all that work. And I just want to thank everyone while I have that opportunity here for all of the hard work that's been done over the last number of weeks. But we know we are transitioning to another phase of this work, and it's going to be significant. There's significant damage, and we know it's going to take time for families and communities to rebuild, and we know we're going to need all the help and resources that we can get, but we are with you through this work. And then finally, some public health messages to make sure we continue to be healthy and safe as we recover from this storm. Remember, cleanup can be dangerous. The most recent deaths that we have seen have been related to the cleanup effort. Please check your surroundings for hazards, wear protective equipment, stay hydrated. Make sure, again, to continue to be careful with floodwaters, avoid contact as much as possible, wash your hands and your skin with soap and water, and make sure you're updated on your tetanus shot. Lastly, we want to make sure that any folks who've had food that's come in contact with storm water or may have not been refrigerated please throw that away, and houses that may have mold should be cleaned up. We have additional resources, again, on the Department of Health and Human Services website about mold removal and using bleach and the proper tools to clean those up as soon as possible. Thank you. Be safe.
Secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality, Michael Regan.
Thank you, Governor. As a native of Eastern North Carolina, Florence has hit us where it hurts. The people along our coast, Southeast North Carolina, and the environment that surrounds it took a big hit. But as we know from experience, when North Carolinians get hit, we get back up. And everyone on this stage is taking cues from Governor Cooper to do whatever it takes to help North Carolina get back up. Hurricane Florence has caused considerable damage to a number of our wastewater treatment facilities, public water system infrastructure, coal ash sites, and animal operations, releasing pollution into our water, our soil, and our farmlands. Staff at the Department of Environmental Quality have been and will continue to be on the ground in areas where pollution impacts are suspected, testing water quality and making the results publicly available for full transparency. We're expecting our first round of results from Duke Energy's Sutton and HF Lee plants in the coming days. I want to assure the public we are committed to holding permitted facilities accountable for full cleanup of any environmental damage their operations may have caused, and we're also reviewing their actions prior to the storm to be sure that no previous actions on their part have exacerbated any potential pollution impacts resulting from the storm. It is premature for any declarations of minimal or no pollution impacts to the hardest hit areas of our state. We will also continue to monitor animal operations and enforce the permit restrictions. We will do all we can to help remaining public water systems and wastewater treatment facilities that are offline return to full operation. And as we transition to recovery phase, I'm committed to focusing on updating our aging water infrastructure to better protect our citizens and the environment from future storms. Lastly, I'd like to thank Secretary Trogdon and Director Sprayberry for the assistance in supplying DEQ staff with the necessary assets to get us in and out of the hardest hit areas in the state, and Governor Cooper for his unwavering leadership. Thank you.
Now our FEMA Federal Coordinating Officer, Albie Lewis.
Thank you, Governor. Albie Lewis, Federal Coordinating Officer with FEMA. You heard the Governor say earlier that we have over 94,000 folks registered for FEMA assistance. That's well above the numbers that registered during Hurricane Matthew, and we expect those numbers to continue to go up. We expect this weekend to have well over 350 disaster survivor assistance teams going door to door, helping folks with that registration process. Remember, if someone knocks on your door and says they're from FEMA, they should be wearing FEMA attire, and ask them for their ID. I'd like to also announce that we are putting out in public papers that we will be hiring local folks, local hire program, and we're looking at bringing about 180 folks in to help with the recovery effort. I have expressed to my staff that the same kind of emphasis, the same type of speed that we used for the response carry through for the recovery. And we're working hand in hand with the state of North Carolina for that. Thank you.
We have other members of our team up here on the podium for any questions that you might have.
Travis with WRAL, I have a number of questions. If we could start the changes in recovery fund, it sounds like you're talking about some new state programs. Do you have a dollar figure in mind and an idea how to finance them?
We are working on damage assessments now and what it will need to recover. We want to make sure that we have the funding to provide matches for every bit of federal funding that we can draw down. But we also understand that there are going to be people who fall through the cracks. We want to make sure that they can get recovery as well. So this will be a process. We'll work with the General Assembly. We'll work with private industry, a lot of public-private partnerships that can occur along with our volunteer organizations.
As far as, I mean, would a bond be needed or a tax increase? And maybe you could name some.
We don't
private,
anticipate either one of those being necessary.
Any private partners that have already stepped up you can name?
Well, we've got a number of private contractors who are out there and ready to go who have already signed up, and we can get you a list of those.
And then if I could ask on the mosquito spraying, can you tell, will it be a county by county decision what gets sprayed, whether it's sprayed from planes? I'm particularly interested, I don't know if malathion is still used, but some of these sprays, there are some environmental concerns, some health concerns, especially if it comes from above on a plane. What's the plan there?
Well, this is now a county by county program, but I thought it was important to provide for them the funding to get it done, because I've heard from a lot of people as I was down there myself that this was a significant problem. Does anybody on the stage know the answer to that, Secretary Cohen?
The governor is exactly right. It's a county by county program. It's run out of the local health department, so they are very aware of concerns about issues related to using the right kinds of chemicals. But we do think it's an important step to take, as the governor said, and we wanted to make sure the counties didn't feel like funding was the thing holding them back, and so now we're working with them to actually do the spraying.
And then Secretary, if I could ask clarifying questions on the food benefits, did you say that people who are typically have an EBT card do not need to apply? And then can you speak to how quickly the turnaround is expected to be from application to here's the money?
Correct. This is a new program, so this DSNAP, or this new food assistance program, is for folks who are not currently enrolled in any of our food assistance programs. So it's new. When someone fills out the application, they come to one of the sites where we are collecting those applications in every county. You call 211, or you can go on our website to find those locations. They'll come in, they'll meet with a worker, they'll go over the application for completeness, and they'll get the card right at that same moment. And so they'll have those benefits immediately. We do have a short window of time for folks to come in for those benefits, so we want to make sure we get the word out now. We think that as many as 300,000 households can be eligible for this program. Again, these are new enrollees that are not in our current food assistance program. If you're on our current food assistance program, we have some ability to replace food that may have been lost. We also, as I've announced before, you can get hot food if you were part of those programs as well. Thank you.
Any other questions?
As far as victims who have died in these storms, will the state be able to name them? I know that you're keeping a database. Is that something you'll be able to attach names to?
Yes, obviously. So again, that is something that works through our both the state and the county Thank you, ME folks. And so we're working with the families to make sure we're protecting their, what they would like in terms of releasing names and things like that. But I think at the right time, we'll be able to. We've already seen a number who are, announcing funerals and such in local papers, but we're trying to work individually with folks.
I want to thank Monica McGee for providing American Sign Language interpretation for us today, and we'll let you know when we'll be back. Thank you very much.